Hey everybody, it's Delta Shiny Zeta here, and welcome to another video in the Every Illegal Action in Various series. And I know absolutely how much all of you love this series so much because you're constantly wanting to learn more about rulings and things that they may not have, known during at the time of their series, and I'm here of course to go ahead and clarify that with all of you. As I always say, this isn't anything malicious, even though I get the very rare comment that says, F you freaking malicious person, but whatever. Anyway, we are going to go ahead and do Every Illegal Action in CIMO'S History of Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, episodes 26 through 50 in this video, so let's do this. There were actually no illegal actions in episodes 26 or 27. However, in 28, there are 3 illegal actions, one of which is, I didn't even want to mention this, but again, I have to be as specific and nitpicky with illegal action in this series, because if I don't, some comments I'm going to get are going to be like, hey, you missed this. So I'll just address this very first one pretty quickly, because some people may have an issue with this. Personally, I don't when it comes to utilizing Dueling Book or any online platform, but let me show you. So for this very first one, around the 29:15 mark or so, you can see that CIMO is going to go ahead and activate Graceful Charity. Now, he plays it, and then look at what he does. Did y'all see what he did? Yeah, I know some of you are like, really? You're showing this in here? Yes. Yes, and it's because that's the nature of this series. In case you don't know, in Yu-Gi-Oh! You are not allowed to shuffle your deck unless a card effect says so, or unless you look through the contents of your deck. Usually it's through a search, like for example, if you use E-Emergency Call, even though E-Emergency Call doesn't say to shuffle your deck afterwards, that wording was removed a long time ago in Yu-Gi-Oh! Very old cards do say that, but nowadays it's implied. So yes, when you use E-Emergency Call, you have to shuffle after. If you use a card that actually shuffles the deck, you also shuffle it. You can't activate a card like Graceful Charity and then shuffle your deck and then draw your cards. The main reason why is because there are actually card effects like Card Shuffle and Tainted Wisdom that literally have effects that pretty much only shuffle decks. As useless as these cards are, they'd be literally useless, even though they're about 99% useless right now. But they would be literally useless if you could shuffle your deck at any time. The other more obvious reason why you can't ever shuffle your deck is if you get hit by like a Phoenix Wing Wind Blast or something and a card goes on top, or Rise of the Storm Monarch and the card's on top. Shuffling your deck would be cheating because obviously we know the card is going to be on top, right? So this is one that I'm not really ever going to judge, mainly because it's impossible to know. Like, we don't know what he would have drawn, right? The literal reason why this is illegal is because we know that if he didn't shuffle the deck beforehand, the 3 cards at the top of the deck would have been different than the 3 that he drew. We know that for a fact. And so, we don't know how much the game would have changed if he drew those 3 different cards. Anyway, moving on, I'm not going to say if this matters or not, it's impossible to know, who cares. So in episode 28, once again, around the 42-ish mark or so, CIMO goes ahead and activates Soul Exchange, a card that lets you tribute a monster on your opponent's side of the field. In fact, you have to if you activate this card effect. But it has a drawback that you cannot conduct your battle phase this turn. They actually did make this illegal action in one of the later episodes in the previous video, of episodes 1 through 25. I forgot which one it was, but here they do it again. Basically, he tributes the set monster, which is a Spirit Reaper. Sucks for MBT, right? Brings out the Jinzo, and then guess what happens? Battle phase, and Jinzo and Mobius both attack. That's illegal. You cannot attack on the turn that you activate Soul Exchange. So CIMO committed an illegal action here. Now this one is actually a little bit weird to actually know what would have happened. Now this illegal action is definitely very tricky. I say this because it's a little bit hard to predict going into the future. I will say that CIMO did win this duel, and it was pretty close at one point. So if we move forward, we will see that MBT sets, CIMO summons the Sangan, and from this point on, you remember, you have to actually assume that there's 2 more Scapegoat tokens, 2 more Sheep tokens on the field. And so here, 2 monsters get cleared, and then Sangan goes ahead and, Jinzo goes ahead and attacks the last token. So by this point, MBT should actually have 2 tokens remaining on the field, but we also don't know if he would have attacked another token or left that Sangan face down. By this point it becomes near impossible to know because we're not mind readers. If we move forward, we'll see that Cyber Dragon gets special summon. Now this is actually very important because this special summon would not have been possible if the 2 tokens were on the field. So technically speaking, you can argue that this would have favored MBT in a way, because he can't just tribute summon the Cyber Dragon since those tokens cannot be tributed for a tribute summon. So it becomes a little bit difficult to actually know what is going on here, and I'm not entirely sure. It's hard to say, but overall, because of that special summon with the Cyber Dragon thing that would not have happened if the tokens were there, I'd like to be leaning more towards that couldn't have actually mattered. Like here, for example, Cyber Dragon gets brain control, but you can't assume that's what would have happened if it wasn't for the illegal action, because Cyber Dragon would have never been on the field and CIMO would have kept the brain control here instead of activating it, because he would only have 2 tokens plus that. What is he going to do, brain control a token? I don't know, right? It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. And there's one more illegal action here in episode 28. Let me go ahead and play this clip for you around the 46 mark or so.
Going to normal summon a Breaker the Magical Warrior.
Sure.
I am going to break Royal Decree.
Interesting. Breaking Royal Decree. In response to that, I will chain a second Royal Decree.
I really needed you not to have that. Yeah.
Alright, so another illegal action committed by CIMO. This time he activates Royal Decree when it is literally impossible to activate Royal Decree. The reason why you cannot is because Jinzo is actually up. Now, if another Royal Decree is simply up, you can activate another Royal Decree, because Royal Decree only negates the effects of all other trap cards, but it doesn't prevent them from being activated. Jinzo, however, has 2 effects. It says trap cards and their effects in the field cannot be activated and negate all trap effects on the field, which that second sentence is basically Royal Decree. But because of the first sentence in Jinzo, this made it an illegal action because you can't do that. Did this matter? Not necessarily, because if we actually move forward, we'll see a couple things. MBT actually has a smashing ground. He goes ahead and destroys the Jinzo, and that was a whole big goal of MBT, which is why he wanted to destroy both the Royal Decree and pop the Jinzo, so that the trap cards can actually have some use, some effect that he has back here. However, even if he would have destroyed the Jinzo, upon resolution of that, when it's destroyed, he could have just activated Royal Decree then. So, as long as he had this extra set Royal Decree, it really wouldn't have mattered too much. In the end, MBT goes ahead and loses because his attack power simply can't match the power of these Mobiuses here on the field, and that's basically it. No illegal actions in episode 29, but in episode 30, which is the emergency ban list of Cyberstein, we do actually have one illegal action. And that's basically around the 1930 mark or so. If we take a look and move forward a little bit, we'll see that CIMO goes ahead and activates Heavy Storm. What happens? Well, MBT goes ahead and chains Ring of Destruction and ends up targeting the Dekoichi here. What we end up seeing here is that Dekoichi gets sent to the graveyard and not the Banished Zone. Now you have to keep in mind Chainlinks here, because Chainlink 1 is Heavy Storm, Chainlink 2 is Ring of Destruction. Ring of Destruction resolves first, destroying this, sending it to the graveyard, and then both players take 1400 damage. Which means that by this point, Dimensional Fissure is actually still face up on the field because Heavy Storm has not resolved yet. If we go ahead and move forward, then we'll see that, then they get sent to the graveyard. So this card should actually be banished because it was before. Now, did it matter? The short answer is actually no. Because if we move all the way to the end, MBT does lose a duel, yes. But we'll actually see it didn't matter. Mainly because there were no graveyard revival cards that CIMO ended up drawing, and he didn't bring up the Dekoichi back, so no, did not matter. Moving on to episode number 34, which is the Disc Commander episode. Yeah, so no illegal actions in 31, 32, or 33. In this particular video, we actually have 2 illegal actions. The first one plays around the 27:30 mark or so. Let's go ahead and play this here.
Feel free to go off.
Yep, I'll go for it.
In response, I will chain Threatening Roar.
Chain Link 4? Threatening Roar. Good luck attacking me, idiot! Yeah.
Sure.
So this illegal action is a little bit more difficult to find, but it has to do with Threatening Roar. Now I will say that MBT obviously activated the card as a joke, but what I'm not sure about is if either player knew that you cannot activate Threatening Roar on your turn. Yes, you actually can. I did say that right. If you go online to the rulings of this card, you'll actually see one thing. Threatening Roar cannot be activated on your turn. It can only be activated during the opponent's turn. So when MBT activates Demise's effect, CIMO chains Threatening Roar, which is fine, and then MBT chains, again, the chain was just like as a funny joke, I get it, but technically it's an illegal action because I'm not sure if they knew, but yeah, you cannot activate Threatening Roar on your turn. One of those really dumb shit rulings that almost nobody even knows that you can do, and it's a wonder how even I know this. Wow, moving on. The second illegal action was a little bit more interesting. So this was much later in the video, around the 38:10 or 38:15 mark or so. And we're going to go ahead and see that in this turn, MBT goes ahead and normal summons a Senju of the Thousand Hands. With that, he goes ahead and searches a Demise King of Armageddon, then activates Advanced Ritual R, brings out that, yeah, whatever, you get it. And now he can't activate the effect because he has literally 2,000 life points, as you can see, so he can't do that. But if we then go ahead and move a little bit more forward, we will actually see, once we get there, it's taking a little while. Okay, here's a Metamorphosis, Cyber Twin Dragon. He goes ahead and changes the Senju of a Thousand Hands into defense mode on the same turn that he summoned it. That, of course, is an illegal action. If we move forward, we'll see a couple things. Cyber Twin Dragon attacks and gets Mirror Force. This right here is a very crazy thing because obviously if you look at it in the simplistic way, you'll say, yep, definitely matter, right? Because Senju should be destroyed. But if you actually take a look back at the actual video, you'll see that MBT is contemplating a lot on whether he should like even bring this card out and then or attack with it, or if he shouldn't. He was contemplating it, so it's very possible that if he knew that he couldn't change a Senju to defense mode, he maybe wouldn't have attacked because the risk was too big to lose both monsters to a Mirror Force. I'm not a mind reader, but I'm just saying, you could actually play back the video and hear that, but he does go back and forth a lot, so it's impossible to really know this. Obviously, if he would have actually, attacked still, despite not, this thing still being in attack mode and he lost both, that would have had a huge impact. Because if we then go ahead and move forward, we'll see that this card should actually be destroyed, right? In that sense, yes, this definitely would have mattered because then he just goes for game and that's it, right? Instead of attacking into the Senju. So in that way, yes, it mattered. It's just hard to 100% know. If we do move forward at the end of the duel, we will see that MBT did in fact win this duel. This one's definitely a bit of a bigger impact depending on a couple circumstances on what MBT would have actually done. Moving on to episode number 35, there's actually one illegal action here. So if we go around the 39:30 mark or so, we'll see something here. So Card Trooper actually gets summoned, and MBT goes ahead and activates Card Trooper's effect to mill 3 and go up by 1500. By this point, Card Trooper is at 1900 attack. Then Pot of Avarice happens, that's not relevant to what I'm talking about here. But then Machine Dupe comes here. This here is illegal because machine duplication only works on machine monsters with 500 or less attack. Card Trooper has 1900 attack by this point. No, it's not original attack, read the card, I'm not wrong about this. I will say, MBT had actually played machine duplication a fair amount of times by this point, and he always played it correctly. Up until this point, he would always make sure to play the card before Card Trooper went off with his effect. This was the only time that I actually caught in which he actually made the illegal action of activating the effect first. Now, you can say that, oh, obviously he would have just, like if he knew, he would have activated Machine Dupe first and then Card Trooper effect. You can't actually say that because if you pay attention here, the effect of Card Trooper ends up milling 2 additional monsters, which actually grants enough targets in the graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it were not for Card Trooper's effect, these 2 would not be here. There would only be 4 monsters in the graveyard, which means he couldn't activate Pot of Avarice. Why am I saying this? Because if we move forward, take a look at his hand. On when Machine Dupe comes out, he draws 1, 2. Let's see if it's one of these 2 cards. And it is, which means he drew the machine duplication from a Pot of Avarice that would not have been able to go off without this effect, which means it would be impossible. You either just summon it and then use the effect to go to 19, and then you can't machine dupe, or whatever he had in his hand here. I don't know what he had actually. He just summons it and then does something. I'm not really sure. This would have definitely created a lot of problems, but if we judge it from this point on, meaning he just can't activate this, he does have a Card Trooper at 1900. That part is completely legal. And then he can attack over this thing, and then CIMO only has a Morphing Jar. Now yes, CIMO does, I believe, draw Cyber Dragon next turn. So keep in mind, the Morphing Jar should probably be here still. Cyber Dragon gets drawn. He can't special summon the Cyber Dragon if the Morphing Jar was still here, so you have to keep that in mind too. So in terms of what would have happened next, he would have had to probably tribute summon, but it wouldn't have mattered because he gets hit by Ring of Destruction. By this point on, it becomes very difficult. He has a dead Great Shogun Xian here, not really too much going on here, and by this point CIMO is just completely dead. Looks like it's literally, but whatever. In episode 38, around the 20 minute mark, we will see an illegal action here regarding Treeborn Frog. And that's basically CIMO. He takes his turn, draws, standby phase, main phase 1. He ends up setting, he actually looks through the graveyard for a little bit there. Doesn't do anything. Sets Marshmallow on, goes to the M phase, and then by the time it's MBT's draw phase, pretty much, and he draws the card, he then brings back the Treeborn Frog. This is one that it's going to be debatable if some people say I should include these things here. The same thing happened with Sinister Serpent in the previous 25 episodes, because the reason why it's illegal is because Treeborn Frog is an optional effect. If Treeborn Frog's special summon was a mandatory effect, this would not be an illegal action. In fact, they saved the illegal action by actually bringing it back, despite it being a little late. But because it's an optional effect, you can't say, oh, I'm supposed to do this, you know? You missed it a whole turn ago. I'm not going to get too nitpicky with this stuff, I'll just mention it this time and that's it. But technically it is an illegal action. Luckily this one didn't matter because then MBT takes a turn, attacks into a Marshmallow that can't be destroyed by battle, and then attacks the Treeborn Frog. So if you forgot, it would have just been the graveyard, and that's it. Same result would have happened. Just Marshmallow here that inflicts 1,000 damage to MBT and can't be destroyed. So it wouldn't have mattered, and that's the only time I'm bringing up this kind of specific situation with Treeborn Frog. The second one in episode 38 is actually around the 33-10 mark or so. I'll just go ahead and play this clip, but it has to do with illegal deck building.
Okay, Joseph, so before we get into the second game, I just need to acknowledge the fact that I'm a dirty cheater, and I had 2 Sangens in my deck when one of them should have been a Stratos. I don't know if that affected the outcome of that game at all, because I still lost. I think Sangen was actually better in the instance I drew it, but we have Stratos in the deck.
Alright, I'll just stop right there. I'll just say this didn't matter, because like you said, he still lost, but I just have to address it. In episode 39, around the 44-minute mark, MBT goes ahead and activates Premature Barrel by paying 800 life points, and he brings from the graveyard the Dark Magician of Chaos. By using Demok's effect, he goes ahead and brings back the giant Trunade into the hand. By this point, I was like, wow, what an amazing freaking play. Because what he can actually do is go ahead and obviously attack, you know, whatever, that's fine. And then Giant Trunade, then he gets to keep the Demok, because that's one of the reasons why Premature Barrel is broken. Premature Barrel only gets rid of the monster if it gets destroyed. But if it gets bounced back through Giant Trunade or any other means, the monster stays. But what he does is that he actually goes ahead and banishes it. This is because I think he thought that this card would have actually been destroyed, and then Demok's effect, you know, if it's removed from the field, it gets banished. But Demok would have never been removed from the field. It actually stays because it was equipped to Premature Burial. It's a good strategy. Activate Premature Burial, bring a monster, activate Giant Trunade, bounce it back, monster stays, activate Premature Burial again. That is so busted, and it's a shame we didn't see that. That would have been crazy. Did this matter? We move all the way forward, CIMO ends up losing the duel. Because of that result, I'm not going to be specifically looking at the duel. Since this illegal action ended up hurting MBT himself, but he still won the duel, it means that it didn't matter. Backtracking back to that same exact situation, once he ended up banishing the Demok and got the Premature back into the hand, he activated it again, paid another 800, and brought back this commander to draw 2 cards. If we move all the way forward, the same situation actually happened again, where MBT illegally did this once again. But around right here, another Giant Trunade hits the field, so Premature Barrel should go back into the hand. This card should stay, but instead, he destroys it. So this card should actually be here. It's the same duel, so I'm going to say these two did not matter because MBT actually ended up still winning the duel. In episode 42, around the 1620 mark or so, CIMO goes ahead and has Gladiator be Sekidor actually on the field. Let me go ahead and play this clip.
Go to battle, we'll hit for 400.
I'll take it.
And then end of battle phase, Sekidor effect. We will shuffle him back, and we get to grab 2 Gladiator Beasts.
So the illegal action here is that Gladiator Beast Sekidor actually works a little bit differently than most other Gladiator Beast cards. This effect says that if it's special summoned by the effect of Gladiator Beast monster, then at the end of the battle phase in which this card attacked or was attacked, special summon 2 Gladiator Beast monsters from your deck. Test Tiger has the effect that it treats it as a Gladiator Beast summon. So he attacks, and Sekidor does not actually shuffle itself back into the deck, unlike most other Gladiator Beasts. So that's the illegal action. This card should still stay on the field. And then he brings out a Laquari and Darius, so there you go. So he should have an extra, 400 attack monster here on the field. There's actually another illegal action that comes up a little shortly after, and that's also by CIMO, around the 1943 mark or so around here. We'll actually see. So again, Darius was actually special summoned by a Gladiator Beast. And the effect of Darius, I can show you, is that you can target a Gladiator Beast monster in your grave or special summon that target, but its effect is negated, and then it's shuffled into the deck when this card leaves the field, meaning Darius, when Darius leaves the field. So what happens here? Mirror Force. Now CIMO was like, oh, I'm smart, I'm gonna go ahead and change this to defense mode, which normally would be a good play. But unfortunately, Darius actually has the effect that it would also get rid of this. So that shifting to defense mode would actually not have worked at all, because it should be gone. However, they kept it on the field, so that's the illegal action. Darius was removed from the field. It did leave the field, so this card should also be, it should be sent back into the deck, actually. We'll see, and by this point I'll just say it's very hard to know, because Secutor should have still been on here, but it could have very easily died, because it's a weak monster. Who knows what would have happened with that? It's really hard to know, but this thing should not be here. So I don't really know by this point. It's a little hard to say. We can just simply go ahead and move forward, and we'll actually see at the 23:55 mark another illegal action by CIMO. Technically, let me go ahead and show you what I mean by this. I'm going to go ahead and play it from here.
Yeah, I did have the best CRE in hand, so you did make the correct read here.
Okay.
And I'm going to contact Fuse, because you can contact Fuse with face down cards, so you're actually never going to know what this is.
I think you have to confirm it's a Gladiator Beast, right?
Well, it is a Gladiator Beast, but I don't have to tell you that. You can contact Fuse with face down monsters.
I know that. I thought I got to know if it was a named monster.
Well, yes, it's a Gladiator Beast, yes.
It ends up not mattering. It's going back to the deck.
Yeah, so it's fine. All right, so we'll bring out the bull.
Okay. So they're both right here, but MBT I would say is more right. CIMO is right that you don't have to have your monsters face up when you're contact fusing. You can totally contact fuse. This here right here is legal. This is legal. But MBT is 100% right when he says that you have to show the monster. And that's true. Even though you can use face down monsters, you have to reveal the card. You have to always reveal the card to the opponent, because otherwise everybody would just be cheating. Like, for example, what if this card is a Petite Angel? You know, that shitty Legend of Blue Eyes card or whatever. What if it's a Petite Angel? I mean, obviously we know he's not playing that, but let's just say hypothetically. If what CIMO's saying is true, if you're just putting him back, that means that that's an illegal summon, and by that point you have to take the word of your opponent. Like CIMO's saying here, it's a Gladiator Beast, but I don't have to show you. Obviously we as viewers know, right? I mean, we know that's a Hoplimus, right? But the opponent doesn't, and that's the problem when it comes to these Yu-Gi-Oh rulings. Now, I did actually mention a comment in here, you know, and I'll actually go ahead and show a couple screenshots. But basically, I had somebody actually comment to my reply when I mentioned these illegal actions. The comment said, on the third one, I think MBT and CIMO trust each other enough to where that point is just invalid. Meaning the third illegal action I mentioned in my comment. So the commenter is saying my point is invalid about this that I'm saying here. I'll just say that that is 100% incorrect. Let me explain to all of you something. In Yu-Gi-Oh! There are many rules that are actually implied rules in Yu-Gi-Oh! That never actually is stated on a card text. Especially in recent years when they ended up cleaning things a lot more. So if you were to say that this thing that I'm mentioning is actually invalid in a Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube video because they trust each other, that you don't actually have, that CIMO doesn't have to actually show this to MBT because they should trust each other. If you say that, then that means that you also have to be okay with saying that whenever you search for Stratos, you never actually have to show it to your opponent. Why? Why do I say this? If you look at the card text of Elemental Hero Stratos, when you normal summon the card, there is nothing on Stratos' effect that says that you have to show the hero card that you got to your opponent, right? It says when this card is normal special summon, you can activate one of its effects. Add one hero monster from your deck to your hand. Where does it tell you, then show the card to your opponent? It doesn't tell you that. And why? Because it doesn't have to. We know that a Yu-Gi-Oh! Ruling says that in order to make sure, from the opponent's perspective, that they're not cheating, you have to show cards that you search whenever they're specific. For example, hero card. The opponent has to confirm that you did in fact pick a hero card and not some other random card, or else people would be cheating all the time. It's the same exact logic. Because if you say that MBT and CIMO don't ever have to show face down cards for contact fusion, then logically you have to say that they should never show each other these search cards because they trust each other. And we as viewers know that CIMO's not cheating when he gets a hero card from Stratos, right? That's not true. I don't think anybody would ever agree that they should play with summoning Stratos or activating any searcher card and never showing it to the opponent. That is 100% incorrect. Even they would hate that. They would hate that. So that's very illogical when you say that, you know, do it with Stratos, but don't do it with face-down contact fusion. Just saying. In episode 43, around the 32-minute mark, something happens here. Let me show you. So, CIMO goes ahead and, you know, tribute summons Caius, actually. 2 illegal actions actually happen here. So, here comes Caius. However, it gets negated. So, Caius doesn't even get a target here, because this is the summon negation window. So, MBT goes ahead and activates Solemn Judgment. So, he's going to pay half his life points. 7,300 divided by 2 should be 3,650. What does he do? He pays 4,000 life points. So this here is an illegal calculation. It should be 3,650, which means he should actually have 350 extra life points. Actually, if you do the math with that. The second thing here that was actually skipped is Sangan. So Sangan ended up getting tributed. Sangan still went to the graveyard from the field, which means it should happen. This is an illegal action because Sangan is actually mandatory. And if you skip a mandatory effect, that does make it an illegal action. So those are the 2 illegal actions here. Didn't matter. If we go ahead and move forward, MBT admits defeat. So even if we add those extra 350 life points, it wouldn't have mattered. And in the Sangan, that would have actually helped CIMO more, having an extra card. So that would have made it even harder for MBT. So he would have probably still lost anyway. So nope, these didn't matter. In episode 44, finally moving on to the 5Ds era, one of my favorite eras in Yu-Gi-Oh! We'll actually go ahead and see around the 27 mark or so. Move forward just a little bit. CIMO sets a card and then proceeds to pass turn. MBT uses Heavy Storm and CIMO chains Emergency Teleport, a fantastic card. This one says you special summon a level 3 or lower psychic monster from your deck, but banish it during the end phase of this turn. So what happens? Krebons comes from Itelli. We move forward. So it's the end phase, and CIMO does remember Itelli, not to remove it from the field, but he sends it to the graveyard and he does not banish it, so that's an illegal action. Krebons should be banished. Also in the same duel, around the 32-15 mark, CIMO goes ahead and attacks with Goyo Guardian into Caius. Should be 400 damage, and MBT doesn't actually take the 400, he just forgot. MBT ends up admitting defeat here. And the banish of Krebons, to be honest, there was no interaction from the graveyard with that Krebon, so it wouldn't have mattered even if it was banished. So neither of these mattered. In episode 45, around the 44-20 mark, there's a battle phase going on here. CIMO actually has a Colossal Fighter, which is at 3,200 because it gains 100 attack for every war attack monster in any graveyard. MBT did mark his with tokens, but CIMO didn't, but they're the same thing basically. They're both at 32. So this Colossal Fighter ends up attacking the Goyo Guardian. MBT should take 400. He takes it. Goyo Guardian's at 28 to 27. Ends up attacking. And he does not actually end up taking this 100 damage here. And then if we move forward, this Goyo Guardian ends up attacking Stardust Dragon for 300 here, and he also does not actually take it. If we move forward to the end of this duel, we will see that CIMO does lose a duel. It didn't matter if MBT was at 3,600 or 4,000, you know, would not have mattered, he would have still won the duel. In episode 46, with some Lightsworn stuff here, we'll actually see that MBT goes ahead and activates Solar Recharge. Discards a card, which is Wolf. Draws 2 and does not mill 2. Solar Recharge actually says discard a Lightsworn monster, draw 2 cards, and send the top 2 cards for your deck to the graveyard. So you draw 2 first and then you mill 2 in that order. Does not happen. And then he does it again. Solar Recharge, discard 1, another Wolf. Wow. Draw 2, does not mill 2. So here he should have actually milled 2. And I'll just tell you right now, this is so impossible to know because these 2 cards that he actually drew should have been the 2 that he milled from the first Solar Recharge, which means the next 2 coming should have been the 2 that are in his hand, and then he mills the next 2. So cards 3 and 4 in that order of the deck going down. It's, oh my god, Lightsworns are almost impossible to know, like if it would have mattered or not when it comes to legal actions, because there's so much milling, especially if it's really early in the duel where you can't really tell. I'm just gonna say to all of you, I don't know. I legitimately don't know, because then it becomes a mess. You don't know, it's impossible to know what would have been in his hand, which should be milled, and so on and so forth. So I'm just gonna say we're moving on. We're moving on. Alright, so around the 1930 to 20 mark in episode 48, we'll see an illegal action here. It's only 50 damage, but I'll just show it. So basically, Honest was activated. This token is at 1850 because it happened from an attack from Garros into the Agors that was summoned, so it's at 1850. Keep that in mind. What happens here is that the token attacks, and then CIMO uses Honest, which means this card gains 1850. So it's at 2850 versus 1850. MBT takes 1000, and that gets destroyed. Makes sense. MBT then forgot that Honest actually works until the end of the turn, so he attacked into this, unfortunately. But this is 2850, so he should be taking 550. What does he do? He just waited out, and he takes 500 there. So it should be 550. He should be at 3600. Did this matter? I'm pretty sure all of you already know the answer to this question. There's very few situations where it would matter. So he, right here, should have taken the extra 50, should be at 750. As you can see, it did not matter. Alright, so part 49 is one of the more notorious episodes from these 25 in total where there were the most illegal actions. It actually has 5 illegal actions in this video. Get ready to learn a lot of stuff because there was some crazy stuff in here. So the first thing is that around the 21-28 mark, CIMO brings out Phantom of Chaos. Phantom of Chaos basically has an effect that says once per turn you can target an effect monster in your graveyard, banish that target, and if you do until the end phase, this card's name and original attack become that monster's name and original attack, and then replace its effect with that monster. So it says banish. He actually ends up choosing Sky Scourge Norlaris. He actually declares it. I'm not going to play the clip, but just know that he actually ends up doing that and then uses the effect. So Norlaris should actually be banished, but it doesn't banish it, it stays. This one I'll just tell you right now, it does not matter. The next one is around the 24-20 something mark. Around there, we will see an illegal action by MBT actually. So MBT goes ahead and activates Gotem's Emergency Call, an X-Saber trap card that says if you have a face-up X-Saber monster on the field, or sorry, if there is a face-up X-Saber monster in the field, meaning either side, target 2 X-Saber monsters in any graveyard, special summon both to your side of the field. So what happens here? He brings out these 2 right here. Now, something crazy here, but okay, so Ragigura's fine, that's okay, but the other one that's a little more wild, I'll say, is actually Faltrell, and you can see the effect of Faltrell because he brings out both of these from the graveyard. Faltrell says cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by controlling blah 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 whatever, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This right here is different from effects for monsters that actually say must first be special summoned. I'm pretty sure they just missed this and forgot it. But monsters that say must first be special summoned, if they are first special summoned in whatever the criteria says, and then they're in the graveyard, they can be brought out. So this card would have been able to be brought out with Emergency Call if it said it must first be, because it was properly special summoned first. But because it says must be special summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways, it means that it can't. That is not an eligible target for Gotem's Emergency Call. Actually, now that I'm backtracking, what would have had to happen is actually Emmer's Blade would have to be special summoned, because Gotem's Emergency Call is actually mandatory for 2 cards, so you can't do up to 2. It says target 2. CIMO'S not playing any X-Sabers. MBT is only playing the X-Sabers, so he only had this option here, and if we take a look at the graveyard, the only X-Sabers were actually these 2 plus Emmer's Blade. Emmer's Blade comes to the hand because of the effect of Ragigura. That's why, in case you're wondering. But that means that then Emmer's Blade would not have been able to go to the hand, but instead it would be special summon, and then this thing would go there into the graveyard. And then what would have happened is that Ragigura's effect would have actually sent the Faltrell back into the hand. Which actually means that it wouldn't have mattered, because if it's in the hand and the Emmer's Blade is on the field, you do actually control 2 or more face-up X-Saber monsters, which means you can bring out Faltrell, plus the other Faltrell. It's not a once per turn for special summoning Faltrell. So it wouldn't have mattered, it's just the way that he did it was illegal, but he could have easily done this in a legal way. The next illegal action is around the 36-25 mark or so, around there, but CIMO ends his turn with a Lila face-up and does not mill. In every other circumstance in this video, he did actually mill correctly when he had Lightsworn. This is the only time that he actually forgot, thus making it illegal, because milling in the end phase is a mandatory effect. Before I mention if that's actually an illegal action or not, we are going to move on into around the 37 mark or so. CIMO ends up drawing a card. Goes ahead and attacks with Lila, and then the MBT activates Gotem's Emergency Call. This one says that if a face-up X-Saber monster is on the field, target 2 X-Saber monsters in any graveyard, special summon both to your side of the field. I don't see any X-Saber on the field. This makes it illegal. I mean, all of you already knew that, right? But yes, so it's an illegal activation. You cannot activate Gotem's Emergency Call in this case. He brings out Emmer's Blade and Ragigura. Yeah, so now he's got some, some nice little defense walls right here, as you can see. which means that this would have actually done all this damage directly to MBT instead of, you know, having those monsters. But the Godin's emergency call should actually be set here. Now what's crazy though is that the bigger illegal action that had some impact is this draw right here was actually the first one that should have actually been milled by Lila. As you can see right there, this card should have never been in the hand, which means that it gave him basically a Dark Arm Dragon effect, that he can just banish dark monsters and then pop cards, and that really just sealed the duel for the most part, because then all these attack, and then he's basically screwed. The last illegal action in this duel though is right around here, almost a 40-minute mark or so. MBT goes ahead and summons X-Saber Airbellum. X-Saber Airbellum says if this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. He attacks the Phantom of Chaos, takes 1600, but that was not a direct attack. And so, this effect should never have activated. CIMO ends up losing Torrential Tribute. Crazy, right? I will say, out of all these illegal actions, the one that definitely benefited somebody the most was CIMO not milling the Lila at the end phase, because that Phantom of Chaos basically turned into a Dark Arm Dragon, wiped a crazy board that MBT had to actually establish some defense there, and then that kind of just sealed it away, because if we move forward, MBT ends up losing. It's hard to say overall, because each player here did some illegal actions and stuff. Again, I wouldn't have known what would have happened if the Godin's emergency call stayed here and the monsters here were down in the graveyard, because he would have taken a lot more damage, which means he should be dead. But you can't just judge it like that because of the Dark Arm Dragon thing with Phantom of Chaos. It's a mess. It's a mess, and honestly, I don't know. It's really hard. And the very last one is in episode 50, the final one of this video. So around the 1949 mark or so, something happens here. We get a summon of Gravekeeper's Commandant, which you can see right... I actually have to go back. There we go. There's a summon. MBT goes ahead and activates a Bottomless Trap Hole. Now the big thing to keep in mind here is Necro Valley, because it has to do with the graveyard. But I'll just tell you right now, Bottomless Trap Hole, actually, despite it saying that it destroys a monster and then banishes it, it never actually sends it to the graveyard and then banishes it. Bottomless Trap Hole does destroy and banish, but it sends it from the field to the banish zone. That's all it does, which means Necro Valley has nothing to do with this. They were a little bit confused going back and forth. In the end, they decided to put the Commandant in the graveyard, which by this video makes it an illegal action because it should have actually been banished. The next one is one of the craziest rulings in Yu-Gi-Oh! That a lot of beginner and even intermediate players might actually miss. But here's how it works. Caius actually hits the board. Tribute summons, tributes to Raiko. And here comes Caius. In case you're wondering why they didn't flip it, it's because Skill Drain is up. It negates all effects on the field of monsters. Caius comes up. Now, Caius' effect is actually negated. However, you still need to target a card because it's actually mandatory. If this card is tribute summon, target one card in the field. He does actually target. He ends up targeting this back row. Now, what would happen if nothing actually happened here? Caius would try to resolve. It does, use this effect. It does not work, and that's it. That's all that happens. So which means that the card stays here. But what happens with this? CIMO goes ahead and chains the card. Torrential Tribute. So here we actually have a bit of chain link. So basically it destroys everything on the field, all the monsters. And remember, Caius is chain link 1, Torrential Tribute is chain link 2. Torrential Tribute activates, destroys all monsters. Now Caius activates and it's going to resolve from the graveyard. From the graveyard. And remember that if you're still in a chain link, all cards in that chain link still stay on the field. So even though CIMO sent it early, this is what really confuses players. But at this point on, when TT activates, and then we go to chain link 1 Caius, TT is still on the field. You have to keep that in mind. In chain links, cards always stay on the field until the chain resolves unless a card moves a card from the field. For example, in MST. If there's an MST mid-chain and it destroys it, send it to the graveyard. Makes sense, right? Or TT here, send all the monsters to the graveyard, even though it's the middle of a chain. Makes sense. But TT is right here. Now Caius activates, but Caius is going from the graveyard, and now it's going to banish the card because TT is still on the field. It goes to the banish zone, and Caius activates from the graveyard. Hopefully that made sense. This is really confusing because most people would never even have seen this at all because they just see skill drain. And it's also because usually a lot of players in the actual physical card game or online, such as this, have a habit of constantly moving cards from the field to the graveyard before a chain link resolves. And when you do that, it's fine because 9 out of 10 times, or even more, 99% of the time, it's not going to matter. But in situations like this, when you move a card too early when you're in the middle of a chain, it might actually make you miss something, such as this. The last illegal action here is in 28-19, around this mark or so. CIMO goes ahead and summons Rescue Cat, activates the effect to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast type monsters in the deck, but their effects are negated and also they're destroyed during the end phase. That's the effect of Rescue Cat. So he does bring up both. They can attack, their effects are negated, so he takes 100, takes 16, makes sense. Now if you're wondering why this card is actually happening with this die roll here, is because they're using the pre-errata Rescue Cat. So pre-errata Rescue Cat basically said that their effects were not negated. And it also didn't have a hard ones per turn, which is why this is legal right here. So I'm not going to include that in the illegal action because that's not illegal. The illegal action though is the fact that CIMO then ends up sending them to the Banish Zone. Rescue Cat does not do that. Rescue Cat destroys them during the end phase, so it sends them to the graveyard instead. So all the illegal actions you had to do with CIMO'S graveyard and Banish Zones when it came to the bottomless trap hole, the torrential tribute needed to be banished, and then the 2 air bellums in here. In the end, I don't think these things actually matter. I looked at this carefully and it didn't seem to actually matter at all, so you know, that's fine. But yeah, that's actually going to be the end of this series here. Pretty much all except like one here didn't really matter in this entire video, which is good. You know, we as viewers really hate to see when illegal actions end up actually giving the game to somebody, you know, because they quote unquote cheated, even if it was unintentional. So yeah, only like one here mattered, maybe 2, but for the most part, it's all fine. It's fine. So yeah, as a quick little heads up, even though MBT actually left a comment and told me that he 100% recommends not doing the progression playoffs, guess what, everybody? I'm stubborn as hell, and I'm doing the progression playoffs, coming soon. Yep, alright. So before I end this video, as always, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you enjoyed the video. I will see you all later. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.